Since a very long time ago, Russians started losing territories around Bakhmut. And to make things even worse for the Russian forces, Ukrainians prepare a surprise, which as some people call it, a HIMARS on steroids. And well, ultimately as a result of most recent events, it looks like that the Putin's dark secrets are finally revealed. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about ridiculous Russian propaganda. And so, according to the representative of the Russian government defense industry, Alexander Zhuravlev, he said that Russia must start employing combat eagles, which will be intercepting Ukrainian drones. And I mean, I know Russia used to claim that they are the second army in the world, so they have all these modern developments, among of them probably some guns which can bring down the drones, but using eagles to intercept them, and this is something new. And speaking about Russia intercepting drones, if you remember recently there was an attack against Kremlin, and it looks like that finally Putin's dark secrets are now revealed. Because according to the Institute for the Study of War, as well as many other Western military experts, after all it looks like that it was Russia who did this attack in order to blame Ukraine. And one of their main reasons for this, besides obviously Russia suspiciously turning off the lights inside Kremlin right before the attack, and then these two guys climbing on the roof, is that Russia, I mean Moscow, recently installed these air defense systems all around the Russian capital, and so this drone pretty much freely flying into the city center and then exploding right on top of Kremlin, avoiding all these modern air defense systems, is just nonsense. And the main thinking of the Russian government here was to do this attack and then obviously blame Ukraine, which then allows them to justify their further invasion, or on the other side to be mocked by the Western countries about their inferiority of air defense systems and be humiliated, which is, as you can see, is unacceptable for a country which is obsessed with not being humiliated. And conveniently enough, this event happened only less than 1 week before the victory parade in Moscow, which will happen on May 9th, and I'm pretty positive that at least indirectly Putin will mention this event and claim that it is Russia already under attack, so we need you, people of Russia, to help us fight against Ukraine and the entire West. So as you can see, there is way too many suspicious discrepancies in this event, and then moreover, according to the ambassador of Russia to the United States, he mentioned that Russia will retain the option to respond to this attack against Kremlin whenever Russia wants and whenever Russia feels like. And I mean, I don't think this is it, but recently several Russian drones were launched against the capital of Ukraine, Kiev. All of them were intercepted, and just overall total for the last 24 hours, Russia launched 24 drones and Ukraine was able to intercept 18 of them. And by the way, just a very quick off topic here, which is, I would say, the perfect example of the more you live, the more you learn. So, long story short, I'll be traveling very soon, and don't worry, the videos will still keep coming. And if you don't want to miss them, just as always, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram to see where I will go. And so yeah, whenever I was planning my trip and trying to book a hotel, I just realized one thing. If you switch your location using a VPN service, you can actually get very cheap deals. And I mean, it's not like $2 or $3. Depending on how long you're planning to stay, the difference can be hundreds of dollars. And the VPN service, which I have been personally using for the last several months, and I only recently discovered this feature, is called Atlas VPN. But what's this even VPN? Well, this is a virtual private network, which will allow all of your internet traffic to travel safely through a protected and encrypted tunnel. And this way it protects you from the data breach, malicious software, and of course the Russian hackers. And I was able to get an incredible deal, so get ready for this. Not 50, not 75, but 83% discount for a 3-year deal with 3 months for free, and it only comes at $1.83 per month. And in order to activate this limited time offer, please use my link in the description. It's extremely easy. But wait, there is more. With Atlas VPN you can finally use the public Wi-Fi. You can finally see movies and TV shows on your favorite streaming platforms, such as Netflix, which recently have been unavailable due to geolocation restrictions. And you can even find some deals whenever booking a hotel or a ticket. Just use Atlas VPN to change your country and here you go. And unlike other VPN services, Atlas VPN allows you to use it across multiple devices. And so right now, if you want to become a part of the Russian Duty VPN gang, please use my link down below. Make sure to take advantage of this limited time offer, which gives you 83% discount, 3 months for free, and unlocks all the features of safe VPN browsing for only $1.83 per month. And if you are still not satisfied, there is a 30 days money-back guarantee. Thank you so much Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video, and now back to the program. Alright, and now let's briefly talk about the Western support to Ukraine, and then I'll give you a very quick update on the south and the east of Ukraine, where Russians started to lose territories around Bakhmut, and then this story about HIMARS on steroids. And first of all, President Zelensky yesterday visited the Netherlands, where he has met with the Ministers of Defense and Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as the Prime Minister of this country. After this, President Zelensky went to The Hague, where he was once again talking about the necessity to create the International Tribunal for Vladimir Putin and other Russian war criminals, and then he mentioned that in April alone, the Russian forces committed 6,139 war crimes. Closer to the end of the day, according to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, the country will be working hard with its allies to provide Ukraine with F-16 planes. And ultimately, President Zelensky was shown another Patriot air defense system, along with other armored personnel carriers and other military vehicles, which will soon be delivered to Ukraine. And while Ukraine just keeps establishing new relations with even more countries and started to receive increased military support, Russia only loses its existing friends. And what I'm talking about here is that recently the country of Kazakhstan, they said that they will stop this parallel import nonsense with Russia. And long story short, what this parallel import means is that Russia was able to bring prohibited goods due to sanctions using some loopholes in the laws. And well, now since Kazakhstan said, that's it, it's enough, Russia looks like lost another friend, which will soon be on the unfriendly countries list. Next we have a picture of a Czech multiple launch rocket system called BM-21 Grad, which is already being employed by Ukrainians on the front lines. And then right here is the picture of 2 self-prepared artillery systems called Paladin, which were pledged by United States of America, and the total number of them is supposed to be 18. Our next video comes to us from one of the military training grounds in Ukraine, where Ukrainian soldiers are just doing some final preparations, trying to drive these Leopard 2 tanks, which came from Germany. And speaking about Germany, right here is the video of the IRIS-T air defense system, which Ukrainians also use on the front lines. This video shows the capabilities and performance of this machine, which are much superior to those that Russians have. The entire video is more than 2 minutes long, and as always the full version will be available on my Patreon. The link is down below. And now, as promised, let's talk about the situation in the south and in the east of Ukraine, where recently Russians started losing positions around Bakhmut. But first of all, right here is another video from Krasnodar oil refineries, where recently, as a result of most likely Ukrainian attack, these objects were severely damaged and one of the cisterns was partially destroyed. Our next stop brings us to Voronezh region, located inside Russia, which is pretty close to the territory of Ukraine. And long story short, recently, allegedly a Ukrainian drone was intercepted in the sky. Then we go back to Ukraine, and according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians continue their offensive not along Kupiansk-Sviatovo-Kreminna front line, but only next to Kreminna, and they are also not able to achieve any significant results. Next we go to Bakhmut, and according to Yevgeny Prigozhin, Russians somehow were able to advance 230 meters, which is absolutely not reflected by this map, and we'll talk about it very soon, but he also mentioned that approximately 116 Wagner soldiers were lost as a result of this ghost advancement, and keep in mind, whenever Russians are talking about losses, always multiply them by 2 at least. And long story short, he said that Ukrainians, they started counteroffensive along Bakhmut front line. They have, it looks like, unlimited artillery, unlimited ammunition, unlimited people. They pressure hard, and they started retaking some areas. Which indeed is true, because if we take a look at this map, which shows us the changes in territorial control in the last 24 hours, we can see that Ukrainians started decontesting pretty big areas to the northwest of Bakhmut. And since the grey contested zone right now is pretty much next to the actual front lines, it means that if Ukrainians continue to push, they will start liberating those areas. And in order for us to be even more confident that this is happening, like I mentioned previously, Prigozhin himself from the Russian side, he mentioned that Ukrainians are counterattacking, and then Ukrainians, for example General Syrskyi, they were also mentioning that yes, Ukrainians do counteroffensive activities around Bakhmut, and Russians are retreating from some areas. And so, I would say, just give it some time, and we will see this territory being liberated, maybe not Bakhmut itself, at least in the near future, but areas surrounding it 100%. But wait, there is more, because if we go a little bit to the south, according to the Ukrainian side, they were able to push Russians further away from the outskirts of Pobeda. And ultimately, right here, recently I received a new footage of the first-person view drones, which show pretty much the entire process, including the operator of the drone, using these glasses which allow them to pretty much see from the drone's perspective. And this is pretty insane. In addition to that particular footage, I also have several more drone videos and many more other uncensored footage. All of them will be available on my Patreon. There is still 1 week of free access, and the link is down below. And now let's talk about something that probably a lot of you were waiting for. This HIMARS on steroids, and why Russia is no longer able to perform any counteroffensive at all. It all starts with the statement by the representative of the Ukrainian Air Force, Yuri Ignat, who mentioned that the main reason why Russians are using so many drones recently is pretty much to exhaust the Ukrainian air defense systems and also to locate their positions. And as a result of all this, in the future, whenever Russians will potentially launch a full-scale second invasion using airplanes and missiles, the Ukrainian air defense system will not be as effective. But I mean, to be honest, right now there is not a single talk about the Russian offensive, because everything they should care about right now is how to protect themselves and how to keep their existing positions, which will most likely they will still fail. And according to the Western sources, the Russian army right now is critically exhausted, both in the manpower and in the firepower. The reason for the manpower is because they already used all of their, or at least majority of their, highly skilled soldiers. They were just sending them to the front lines, doing the basic stuff. And right now they don't have these elite soldiers, and they don't have anyone to train fresh conscripts. And the same thing is pretty much about the military equipment. They lost so much of it in the first year of the invasion, and it does take a lot of time to rebuild the combat machines. And for this reason, the majority of military commanders of the Russian forces, they realize that the only thing left for them is to try and keep whatever they already have, but it all depends on the mind of Putin, which is often quite unpredictable. Because, the victory parade is coming, there is not a single victory which Putin can claim, so he, knowing that Russia is extremely weak, might just force them to continue advancing, trying to capture at least something. And unless makes another extremely unpopular decision within the Russian population, which is to announce another round of mobilization, I don't think there will be ever Russian offensive by the end of this war. And so what do you think? If Russia is not attacking, who will be the one to attack? And well, you guessed it, it is going to be the one and only Ukraine. And what do you think are the basic stages of the Ukrainian counteroffensive, which they recently started doing? The first step is to stop the advancement of the country aggressor, and as you can see, Ukraine was pretty successful in this. The second step is to stall the invasion across the entire front line and deplete as much resources of Russia as possible, and this is what exactly Ukraine is doing in Bakhmut. Step number 3 is to set up the conditions for your own counteroffensive, accumulate human resources, military vehicles and weapons. Ukraine is doing this as well. And the step number 4 is to start the liberation itself, which Ukraine pretty much recently began, and at this point everywhere, in the south, crossing Dnipro river, in Zaporozhye region, next to Orekhovo, and even in areas such as Bakhmut. And to make things even worse for Putin and the Russian forces, Ukrainians will most likely use HIMARS on steroids, which is attack MC, with the range of up to 300 kilometers, which will allow Ukrainians to reach pretty much any single target within their temporarily occupied territories, including on Crimean Peninsula. And one of the main reasons why they might use it is the element of surprise, which is extremely crucial for the successful counteroffensive, because in the very beginning you have to confuse your enemy, they have to be completely lost where all these attacks are coming from, and the goal for this is to cause panic among Russian forces. And if you remember from one of my episodes from the last week, one of the integral parts of the counteroffensive of Ukrainians will be exactly to cause a chaos and panic within Russian defense lines. And so, not gonna lie, Ukrainian counteroffensive does look better and better every single day. It will happen unexpectedly, and it will be a big surprise not just for Russians, but for the rest of the world. And if you don't want to miss it, just please subscribe to my channel, it only takes one click. Thank you so much Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video, and one of the best ways to support the channel will be if you use my link down below. Feel free to also check my Patreon, become my channel member or use a PayPal link. Everything can be found on the right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи, and see you tomorrow.